If your Facebook ads haven't been the same since 2020, you're not alone. iOS 14 broke the playbook and most brands never adapted. The reality for most brands running Facebook ads is that since 2020, they've seen their targeting get worse, their tracking get worse, their costs are rising with the CPMs, and their CPAs have also been squeezed over the years. And in this video, I'm going to break down exactly why this has happened, what used to work and why that doesn't work anymore, and the strategies that the fastest growing brands in the world and the brands that we work with at my agency, Hayes, are using to get better performance and scale their ad spend consistently. We have a lot to cover in today's video, so let's get right into it. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jordan Hayes. Just a quick background on me. I run a marketing agency. We help e-commerce brands scale to 8 figures and multiple 8 figures. The way that we do that is across different done-for-you services. We do focus a lot on the ad creative and the meta ads, media buying. It's really our bread and butter. If that is something you're interested in and you're looking for a partner to really come in and help you scale, then there's a link just below this video in the description to my website. You can have a chat with me. It's a quick 20-minute call to get to know more about your business and see if we can actually come in and help you. If we can help you, we will let you know up front. And worst case, we give you some insights as to what's working for our own clients. And, it's 20 minutes and that's it. All right. So just a quick refresh here on Shopify to show that I'm qualified and that's proof behind what I'm talking about. The last 7 days, just over 166K in revenue for one of our clients. So let's get into it. Now, there's 5 different things I'm going to talk about today, right? And we're going to be going into, first of all, like why are these things actually happening, right? Why is CPMs higher? Why is targeting worse, etc.? And then we're going to be talking about creative that worked in 2020 and what's actually working today. Then we're going to be talking about the media buying and creative strategy and what works nowadays. Then we're going to be talking about the importance of emotion and UGC layering. And finally, the creative testing matrix and the offer testing framework. So again, a lot to cover. So let's start with the first point right here, which is why are CPMs higher and why is the targeting worse? And of course, that leads to a lower ROAS. So basically, after iOS 14, right, we all know iOS 14 changes. We really saw them impact our clients. I'd say more like early 2021, although late 2020, we did start to see some impact. So basically, after the iOS 14 updates, Meta lost access to key user data, which broke lookalikes, weakened the algorithm targeting, and also inflated CPMs across the board. Many brands tried to power through using old tactics, but the game changed. If you're still playing by 2020 rules, you're burning cash, okay? And I'm about to show you a way forward that you can apply that is working for the brands that we are working with at my agency. And don't worry, in this video, I'm going to show you what is actually working for our own brands so you can apply that to your own brand as well, okay? So iOS 14 severely limited third-party tracking, shrinking effective audience pools. Lookalikes lost precision, right? Broad targeting is now more effective. CPMs rose across the board due to auction competition and inefficiencies. Retargeting pools collapsed due to cookie loss and attribution gaps. So what is the solution? The solution is building first-party data strategy using things such as email quiz, post-purchase flows to understand who's actually coming into your funnel, okay? Now, coming into the second point here, which is about creative. The creative was still important back in 2020. It's nowhere near as important as it is today, okay? Creative really runs the show when it comes to meta ads. And I'm not saying that media buying is dead. There is still a place for media buying, and we're going to be covering some of that strategy in just a moment. But the creative that worked in 2020 versus now and why it fails today, okay? So in 2020, creative game was a little bit different. You could win with simple product shots, clean carousels, text overlays, but those formats are usually scrolled past instantly on today's day and age. You now need creative that educates, that entertains, and earns attention because targeting is not doing the heavy lifting for you anymore, okay? Now, I'm sure you know by now that Facebook ads is very much a creative game. And, 2020, as I mentioned, the kind of the clean shots, the UGC that was very static, worked pretty well. But nowadays, it's more about dynamic UGC, emotional storytelling, and TikTok native pacing. And on my YouTube channel, I have a ton of videos going through ad creative breakdowns from some of the fastest growing brands in the e-commerce space. You can go ahead and watch and actually break down the frameworks and the reasoning behind why those creatives are working as well with consumer psychology. All right. So nowadays, creative must do the targeting for you and speak directly to specific pain points of your audience. Now it's about understanding your customers more than ever. Okay. And the average user scrolls past 300 items per day, which means thumb stopper intros are non-negotiable, right? You need to be able to grab attention effectively. So the way to do that is you're using visual patterns that mimic organic content to blend into the feed. Basically, we want our ads not to really look like ads. We want them to fly under the radar. And this is why, UGC works so well. We need to do UGC in a way that kind of blends into the feed and seems organic and has very subtle consumer psychology selling propositions within it, okay? You can also use whitelisting ads, which is another way to blend into the feed and kind of fly under the radar of, hey, this is an ad, right? Now, let's talk about how to pivot your media buying and creative strategy, because likely, if you're not seeing the performance has really improved since 2020, you need to make some changes. So after 2020, the brands that win, they treat media buying and creative as one unified system. You can't brute force performance with spend anymore. You need structured creative testing paired with simplified campaign architecture, right? So the first thing is to make a shift to broad targeting, right? Advantage Plus are open audiences, and you let Meta optimize. There is one caveat here. It depends on the stage where your brand is at. It depends how much data your pixel has, right? If you don't have a lot of data, if you haven't really scaled Facebook ads before, then there's still a place for interest targeting. And the reason why is because interest targeting allows you to give Meta a starting point in terms of the audiences that it can go out and find on the platform. And then from there, it's actually going to go beyond those audiences and do its own broad targeting, right? So even though you're using interests, it's still kind of broad targeting, after, a certain time frame and spend. But generally speaking, to scale, broad targeting is the answer, right? You need to let Meta do its thing. And you need to give Meta the data to be able to do its thing. Next is consolidating CBO campaigns. So we use a CBO campaign structure. We have fewer campaigns, and that builds better signal strength, right? Consolidation is something that Meta has been preaching for years. And, the days of having 20 different campaigns are gone. We prefer to consolidate as much as we can, right? We do like to split campaigns per product, but again, consolidation as much as we can. We test 3 to 5 creators per week minimum in dedicated testing campaigns. Now, I've done a lot of videos on creative on my channel where I've spoke about creative volume. Creative volume is just as important as quality, right? You can't have one without the other, especially as you're scaling, right? But there is a point where, the volume that you're producing becomes a bit unsustainable, and you really need to focus in on the quality and focus in on improving your win rate, right? Which is really the key. The win rate is how many creatives are you finding that are winners out of all the creatives that you're producing, right? So usually, you produce 10 creatives. Let's just say you have one winner, you have a 10% win rate, okay? Now, how do you get that to a 15% win rate or even a 20% win rate? And if you could do that, it's going to make your process of finding winning ad creatives much more effective and, of course, much more efficient as well, because you're not spending as much time and money to find those winning ads. So testing 3 to 5 creators per week should be the minimum, should be the bare minimum for your ad spend. Now, if you're spending multiple thousands of dollars a day, multiple tens of thousands of dollars a day on ads, of course, this number is going to be much, much higher. Now, next thing is using clear naming conventions. This is just, I guess, like a side thing, but still very, very important. So, have something such as the hook and the angle and the CTA, have some sort of structure. We like to use IDs, which come back to the Notion database that we use for all the creators that we produce. This allows us to keep track of, what's being produced and allows us to refer back to that in the future, right? So really what this comes down to is building creative pods around problems and benefits and not just features, right? This is about going into more of the deep pain points, the desires of your audience. And this is why at my agency, we spend so much time on research for the ad creators that we're going to produce and the landing page copy that we're going to write and how do we optimize the website. Like all those things starts from research. So this is really what you need to do to pivot your strategy when it comes to media buying and creative strategy. The fourth thing I want to talk about is why post-iOS brands must lead with emotion and UGC layering. So UGC, it's not just a trend, right? It's been around for a while, but it's also how you rebuild trust in an algorithm-first world. The key is to combine emotional angles with layered UGC storytelling to connect with the audience at a deeper level and bypass the cold, transactional feel of traditional ads, okay? So we want to try and blend into the organic feed, right? We don't want to be seen as ads, but at the same time, we don't want to be too organic post feel, right? We actually want to do some selling. And that is really the hardest thing, is how do you strike that balance between something that looks very native to the platform, doesn't look like an ad, but still has a lot of selling power, a lot of direct response, so that you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on an ad on target CPA, okay? So what are some things you should do? You should lead with human pain points and not product features. You should layer formats. So you have some face-to-camera intro, you have an overlay demo, punchy testimonial, like you're changing up what the user is seeing, but you're also testing different formats, right? And there's still a place for statics in today's day and age, right? Of course, UGC is important. Static ads, there's definitely still a place for those as well. Next thing is you want to prioritize emotional arcs. So I struggled with X until I found Y. You want to tap into the deep emotion state of your customer and trigger that emotion in them when they see your ads, because people buy with emotion and then they justify that purchase with logic. Then you want to showcase micro transformations. So daily wins, subtle shifts, not just big outcomes. You don't want to always have these grandiose claims like the before and afters, right? The crazy before and afters. Yes, those are important, but you also want to show the micro transformations, the more realistic ones, like the day-to-day small changes that the product makes in the user's life, right? And that's just going to come across more realistic. It's going to come across more genuine and just more believable, especially as consumers grow more and more skeptical by the day. And finally, you want to pair UGC with performance storytelling frameworks such as Pass, React, etc. As I mentioned, I have tons of other videos on my channel going through tons of different frameworks that we use at my agency Haze to really build structured ad creatives that are proven to work. And the fifth and final area that I want to cover on is the creative testing matrix and the offer testing framework. So great ads don't scale without a testing engine. So what you need to do is you need to build a creative testing matrix that rotates hooks, formats, and CTAs. And then you want to layer in offer testing to boost conversion without changing the product. Okay. So the first thing is the matrix itself. So just to give you an example, you can have 3 different hooks, 2 formats, and 2 CTAs, which gives you 12 total variants, right? You want to rotate these in. And the key with this is also being able to learn with the data, right? Once you have data on ad creatives, you want to be able to learn and iterate from there. The money is really in the iteration, because once you look at the data of either a winning ad creative or a losing ad creative, and you really understand why the ad creative is not working or is working, then it allows you to create iterations that are going to improve the ad creative kind of step by step, right? You can have 5 different iterations of the same ad, right? And that is just, again, to get closer and closer to a winning ad, right? An ad that actually performs on your target CPA, on your target ROAS, whatever you're optimizing towards, at tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in ad spend, if not millions of dollars in ad spend, okay? With that in mind, you want to test one variable at a time. So this is either your hook, your voiceover, your structure, your CTA, if the time and budget allows, right? I know that this isn't always feasible in most cases, but ideally you want to be testing one variable at a time. Then you want to build tiered offers, right? This is kind of like your bundles, your free gift of purchase, your risk reversals, because getting the performance you need on Facebook ads nowadays and getting the scale you need is not just about ad creative and media buying. It's also about the other things outside of the ad account. You need product market fit. You need a strong offer. You need to be leveraging things such as bundles, a free gift of purchase, and risk reversals. And of course, you need strong conversion optimization and AOV as a result of that. And the way that I like to look at these is it's multiple different levers that we can pull in our direction and pull in our favor. We have to combat the rising CPMs. We have to combat the rising competition. We have to combat, the decreasing consumer confidence, with everything that's going on in the world. So how do we do that? Yes, strong ad creative that blends into the feed, that is very direct response and built using proven frameworks. Of course, we need structured media buying and consolidated campaigns and being able to give Meta the data it needs to optimize and find the audiences that are going to purchase from us. But after that, we need to be pulling other levers, right? Conversion rate, AOV, a strong offer, and even your post-purchase strategy. How do you increase lifetime value so that your lifetime value to CAC ratio is high enough where you can be even more aggressive on your front end new customer acquisition? Okay, that is really the game nowadays. And finally, I want to talk about high intent landing pages, right? So this is about creating congruence between your ads and the destination that you're sending people to, right? So if you're sending people to landing pages, making sure that the angle that you're using in the ad creative, the reason why someone clicked on that ad, is being reiterated and is matched on the landing page, the destination that customer is going to, right? The first thing that they should see when they land on your landing page, your PDP, whatever it is the same message reinforced, right? It just tells them that they're in the right place and it creates congruency. This is the 5 different areas that brands that are scaling the fastest on Facebook ads that are getting the performance that they require to be able to scale consistently are doing after, in a post iOS 14 world. Okay. And this is, as I mentioned, exactly what we do for our own clients at Haze Media. We work with a handful of clients. We don't want to work with a ton of clients. We're actually capped out. So maybe by the time you're watching this, we don't have any more spaces. Maybe we have a couple more spaces. I would encourage you to book a call through the link down below to have a quick 20-minute conversation with myself and understand if we have space, but also if we can actually come in and help you scale. Okay. So that is all for this video. Hopefully you found this one helpful. Hopefully there's a lot of changes here that you can go ahead and start making in your ad account, but also outside your ad account to start getting better performance and start scaling like you were pre-iOS 14. Okay, that's it for this one, and I'll see you in the next video.